Welcome to the Real Estate Talk podcast with myself, Oliver Ingalls, and my esteemed co-host, as always, Benji Weinberger. If you take anything from this podcast, if you take away any nuggets, any hints, any tips, we would love for you to like, subscribe, and please share.
And there was always a queue after like prep or dinner, whenever we were allowed to make phone calls of just like all these like sobbing kids, like trying to desperately wanting to speak to their parents.
How did you perceive as an outsider DDRE Global before you joined?
Surprisingly, I was late on my first day. And I've never been more terrified in my life.
I'm not going to slag him off. I will, slightly.
They would quite literally throw a bottle of champagne.
What happened if you were at the bottom of the leaderboard?
It was just a horrible place to be, and no one's coming to save you, right?
Do you think you're home now?
That's really interesting that you say.
Oliver Venn.
Oliver is a very experienced agent who has previously worked at some of the biggest firms, including Foxtons, Knight Frank, and is now a self-employed agent at DDRE Global. We speak about how he juggles balancing being self-employed with his beautiful 5.5-year-old son, and find out what is the most expensive property Ollie has sold.
Ollie also dives into his boarding school experience, the melting pot of testosterone, and what he learned from that experience. He's done over £600 million worth of sales and acquisition over central London, and he will tell us his one top tip to becoming a successful real estate agent. It's one you're going to want to watch. Let's go. Mr. Oliver Venn, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
The pleasure is all ours. We've been wanting to have you on for some time now. It's taking some convincing, though. You kept knocking us back.
All right, what? From yesterday to today? I don't think I actually don't even think it was less. It was less than 24 hours ago that I was asked. So,
and you cancelled appointments to be here.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I love that. No, mate, thank you ever so much.
You're welcome.
For joining us.
Real pleasure.
I'm quite inquisitive into your past, actually, because you've been to quite a few different companies. So it's going to be really interesting to see how your career has kind of developed and what you've learned from different ones, and how you think that experience has maybe brought you into the agent that you are now.
Yeah.
And as we always like to start, give us a quick snippet into where you grew up, what your education was like, and how you fell into agency.
And how I fell into agency. Okay, fine. So I grew up in North London, was born just outside of London, grew up in Muswell Hill, went to school in Belsize Park, then ended up going to boarding school in Hertfordshire, and then in a place called Shiplake, which is in sort of Oxford-ish area, which I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it was a very cool experience indeed. But a very different experience from North London to sort of like the country life.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
It was very cool indeed.
And so you went to boarding school, what, for secondary school? Or
yes, so like 11 to
11 plus
18, yeah.
Yeah. And boarded what, full time? So you were there
pretty much, yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
All boys school?
All boys, and then it was mixed in the sixth form, I think. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And what did you study when you were there?
I mean, like just the normal subjects, and then obviously you go to do your A levels. I think I did business, PE, and theatre studies. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's brought you into the character that you are today. That theatre school,
character or clown. I'm not sure which one.
Do you think you use the theatre studies for showings as a performance?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think any agent that tells you differently, because we really have to not mirror, but we have to
perform.
Yeah, you have to perform for your audience.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you have to not pretend to be anything different, but you have to enhance the experience, be it for your client, be it for a new buyer meeting for the first time. It really is like that every day.
And boarding school wise, looking back, we've had so many people on the podcast now, and there have been a couple that went to boarding school, etc. And some found it really tough with the demands of boarding school. And actually, when they've looked back, it's almost been sometimes their worst points, wasn't it, for their schooling, boarding school, and they just didn't get on with it.
And they rebelled.
How did you find boarding school, and how did you find that pressure?
I think, and that's a really good question, because I think it depends on it. So if your family have been to boarding school, so my parents did. One was by choice, the other was not, because my dad's parents moved to Ghana, so he ended up sort of having to go to boarding school without much of a say. Whereas my mother and my auntie went because it was their choice to go.
Yeah.
So they had very different experiences. One went to a private school, and the other went to a convent school, boarding school in and around Liverpool, which was probably a very different experience to
Oxford.
Yeah, pretty much. And so it really does shape the narrative if you've sort of grown up listening to that sort of rhetoric. For me, it was a choice. I wanted to go, and I was very fortunate that I was able to go. But my parents split, so I didn't really. Part of the decision was because I didn't want to choose who to live with. So it was easier to remove myself from that situation.
Wow.
And I remember vividly, the first boarding school I went to was sort of 11 to 13, and then I moved on to a different one. But the first one, I remember those sort of 4 or 5 weeks. It was brutal. It was really, really tough being away from your family for an extended period of time, because like at 10 or 11, you've spent a few nights away from home, max, and then you're in a dorm with 20 other kids who you don't know, and it's just completely different. It's not what people think, this like life of luxury. It was like wrought iron beds, and it was pretty uncomfortable, and you're sleeping with like 20 other people. It's a weird experience. So you're always wanting to, there were a lot of tears, there was a lot of like calling home, waiting for that. Do you remember pagers? Did you guys ever have a pager?
Yeah.
I don't even know. I knew you had to work one, but it was always. And I remember there was the phone booth was underneath the stairs, and there was a curtain, and there was always a queue after like prep or dinner, whenever we were allowed to make phone calls, of just like all these like sobbing kids, like desperately wanting to speak to their parents. But it was a character building.
I was going to say, was it character building?
Yeah, kind of make or break. Did it make you? Did it break you? What?
Yeah, it teaches you resilience very, very early on.
Nice.
It really does. It teaches independency. You're not codependent on anybody else. And I think actually that has shaped me as an individual going forward, rightly or wrong. I'm still trying to figure it out at 36.
And especially I went to an all-boys school as well, secondary school. The amount of testosterone filled, you're kind of finding yourself, your body, and that's a melting pot.
Yeah, really is.
24/7.
Yeah, all the time. And then especially, on the weekends, because you would have, day boarders who would sort of drop in and drop out. Then you would have the weekly boarders, Monday to Friday, and then the full-time boarders. So the weekends were really nice, because it was very calm. It was really calm. So it was from an
education stance, and look, you obviously can't compare it because you didn't experience anything else. Do you think that it's helped you mold you into the person you are now from an educational stance? Do you think that it was tougher than maybe your friends and what they maybe experienced and maybe told you stories from their normal secondary schools, back in Muswell Hill?
Yeah. I think there's a couple of different points to look at, right? So you've got smaller classrooms, right? So you have more attention, but then that comes with also more pressure, more expectation from your parents, because they're investing in you, or, even if you're on a scholarship, there's pressure because you don't want to let down the school, right? You've been given an opportunity, and that I wasn't smart enough or athletic enough for any kind of scholarship. But there was definitely a lot of pressure riding on it, for sure.
And
if anything, now I regret not making the most of that opportunity.
Interesting.
Whilst I was there. From an educational stance, I think you can take a lot of things for granted, and hindsight's such a wonderful thing.
Of course, yeah.
That that only comes with age and experience when you get to look back at things.
So what would you have done differently if you could go back now, effectively, or tell Ollie at 11 years old, mate, you should do this, or get this out of this next 4 or 5 years? What would that advice be? I
think, and it sort of boils down to what I do in the day to day now, and I'm sure it's the same for you guys. I would have tried harder. I would have put more effort into the books, so to speak. I wouldn't have taken that for granted. at all. But then that sort of shapes who I am now in terms of like getting things out in a timely manner, doing what you'll say you're going to do, and just being very punctual and very disciplined. We can get onto the discipline of work in a minute, but that is, yeah.
It was interesting because I'm trying to remember back to who the guest was, but from boarding school, they said that the one thing was discipline. That's what, they came out with at the end, with the way you dressed, that you had always had to have, I think he said like shiny black shoes, his tie always had to be done up. He had to be there at 7 a.m. to do X, Y, and Z. And they were like on you if that didn't happen. And that said that was his biggest fucking like, oh my God, this is crazy. But he said it built him as a person. That's why now he's so regimented and disciplined. And that kind of mirrors what you just said.
Absolutely. It wasn't, like a military school, but it was certainly run with precision.
Yeah.
Right. You're up at a certain time, you're dressed, you're down for breakfast, and then your day starts. Your day has already started, but you know what I mean? You have that rigid structure that doesn't really change throughout the whole day. And then when you've got your downtime to decompress.
Yeah.
But absolutely. From what you dress, so how you dress, what you dress in, your shoes, your shining of your shoes, it really just teaches you. And for me, it's quite normal, right, to polish your shoes or to wear a decent shirt to make sure it's ironed. All those things that I think a lot of people now don't do, and I think a lot of people will blame that on COVID and the whole business casual that we have in this day and age.
Yeah,
I really like the formality.
Yeah.
Of it. But it's also not formal because that's just normal for me. And you look at how certain corporate agencies dress, they're still very much in suits and ties.
Yeah.
And then you have what we dress in, which is still, I personally think that everybody here dresses very, very well. And it's very appropriate for whoever you meet on that day.
Yeah.
And so I know we'll come on to it. We'll talk about your boy, Casper.
Yeah.
All of kind of what you learnt, and whether that's from not doing it then and doing it now, and also that you mentioned the kids will see the rhetoric around their parents about boarding school. I imagine you're in the process of thinking about what are the next steps of how you bring up Casper, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Who's what, 4, 5?
5.5.
5.5.
Yeah, 5.5 going on 15. As hopefully some of the audience have seen some of his videos, and how he is how, I am and he is with his mother, and that you are a product of your environment. So I think with children, and you'll understand, Ollie, that they are sponges. They will mirror what they see. So, you drop a bad word in every now and again, that's going to come up all the time. But if they see you dressing well, dressing appropriately, speaking well, embracing people, shaking hands, eye contact, all of those things, that's what you really need to try, or what certainly we as parents try and instill into him.
Yeah.
I suspect you're going to ask, would I send him to boarding school?
That was going to be my next question, yeah.
Would I send him to boarding school? Yes, I think we would, but not until perhaps secondary school.
Yeah.
And for a couple of reasons. Money, because it's very expensive now. It was back in the day, but it was all relative at the same time.
Yeah.
Whereas the cost of things, as we all are experiencing, is just vastly different to what it was back then.
Yeah.
But also, I don't think there's an inherent benefit of having that private education from 0 to university.
Yeah.
I think there needs to be some real world experiences, right? Different cultures, different backgrounds, parents, religion, all of that.
Yeah.
So I think the real benefit is from 11 onwards.
Yeah, I love that. And do you know what? One of the someone asked me the other day, like, what's the best attribute you think when you start self-employed? Like, out of everything, knowledge, and I said to them, I think it was hard work and holding yourself accountable. And actually, I read your LinkedIn post this morning about how, the market's quiet now and it's quite easy to slip into that. I might go in at 11, I've kind of got the next 4 or 5 weeks maybe to recharge a little bit. Like, I haven't got any appointments, and that you've been in every single day, holding yourself accountable, doing the calls, etc. And that experience, of your schooling has taught you those lessons, which has then probably helped massively, I assume, when you've gone to being self-employed. because now you're like, I know where I need to be. I know how I'm going to be on my desk at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be ready by 8 o'clock. You know, you get up and go to the gym and stuff as well. And having that attribute, I think, is key to being successful when you're self-employed.
I think you're absolutely right. Having a routine from an early age, you know, some people, depending on their parenting style or how they were raised in whatever environment that is, and not having a routine or having too much pressure on a routine, can be detrimental in their eyes. And I think if you are going to be self-employed, you have enough sleepless nights as it is. So guessing about where you're going to start tomorrow or the day after and what your week looks like is really, you don't need to add to that. So if you can, if you can knock that off and have a routine and have some form of, even if it's the gym, right? So if you're just going to get up, you go to the gym, you can kind of just figure out the rest of your day from there if you haven't figured that out on a Sunday night, right? So Sunday evenings for me is quite militant. If I'm not back at my house by 5 o'clock on a Sunday, it stresses me out. Yeah. Because, you're either getting ready for the week, right? So sorting out all of your home stuff, laundry, chores, shopping, meal prep, whatever it is, but actually ironing out your week, knowing where you've got to be or where you want to be. From our day changes enough as it is already, right? We don't need any more variables to be thrown in there because it's stressful as it is. So, we used to have a saying at Foxtons, planning prevents piss poor performance, right? The 5 Ps. I'm sure everyone's heard of it. I don't think it's said enough because planning is really important. And accountability is a big part of that. Really is.
I love that. Okay, so what did you want to be growing up?
I actually wanted to be a helicopter pilot.
Okay, nice.
When I was,
did you go to the Air Cadets?
So yes,
I can imagine being an Air Cadet.
Well, you sort of had to be, and I didn't want to do volunteering, so because I did it as part of the Duke of Edinburgh course at school, and planes and flight always interested me. And that was probably 2005, 2006 when we were doing that. So I was like, I'm pretty sure I want to be a helicopter pilot. I'll join the RAF, and then I'll get my PPL, and then that's what I want to do. And then we went to war, and then I found out that I think the minimum service for a helicopter pilot was something like 7 years. And truthfully, just kind of backed out of it. And
sorry, excuse my complete ignorance. Who did we go to war with?
Iraq, Afghanistan.
When was this?
Well,
Bush, Labour, that whole...
Oh, but you're quite young.
Yeah, I'm 36.
Okay, so this is what 18...
The timeline works, like it's
the timeline, I suppose it was. That's got to be
years ago.
15 years ago.
Give or take.
No. 2000.
So you 2005, what are we now? 2025, it's 20 years
ago. Yeah, 20 years, of course, yeah.
So just backed out of it.
Just backed out of it,
Did a lot
mainly because of the minimum service. It was a selfish thing to do. My mother was also, her boyfriend at the time was an ex-Navy helicopter pilot, which I subsequently found out afterwards. So they didn't really shape the narrative of my decision. But it's a really hectic career.
And so you went to school, you went boarding school, you came out at the end with whatever grades. You get quite good grades when you came out?
No, nothing special.
Very normal.
Probably
B's
below
and C's.
average. No. There was definitely just like C's and D's. It was not, going back to what I said earlier about trying harder.
That's what
I would have wanted to have done.
Okay, so you get your results. The next day, what happens?
I think we were all anticipating it anyway. I don't think it was a great surprise that I was, an average or below average student. But I always was really keen to get to work, right? I always felt like I had something to prove. I really wanted to get to work. I like the idea of earning money. I like the idea of talking to people. I really like the idea of sales and selling something. So that summer, great summer. I think I had about a month and a half of kind of doing whatever I wanted. And then you kind of get towards the end of the summer holidays and I was like, okay, well, I've got to do something. I think my mum was like, what are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I need money. I need to do something. Can't sit around dossing around like a
and all your friends are going to uni or something like that.
I think everyone did, and I didn't. So I remember I got a temporary job to fill the gap of pizza delivery. I had a 1972 Mini, which I loved. And again, the challenges of having an old car and a crap job, well, not a crap job, but like crap money, for example. When things go wrong, what do? You have to learn how to fix your fan belt. You need to learn how to change your tire. You need to deal with any form of adversity because no one's coming to save you, right? Did that. A friend of mine, I then applied for a salesperson job at Land Rover. A friend of mine had a company, I think it was door knocking, selling like gas or whatever. And then a school friend of mine who didn't go to university ended up applying at Foxtons about a month before. And I had all 3 interviews. I don't know how I got all 3 offers, but he said, come down, have an interview, got offered the job at Foxtons, the one at Land Rover. And I don't think he really needed to have an interview for the door knocking, but I think they would have taken anybody. And I chose Foxtons, and I didn't really look back from there.
Just backtracking a tiny bit, you said you wanted to get to work because you felt like you had something to prove.
Yeah.
What did you feel you had to prove, and who to?
So all of my family are very hard workers, right? I think some people may have a perception of me because of how I carry myself, or the fact that I have a signet ring, or whatever, that you're born with a silver spoon. That's very much not the case. Grandfather on my mother's side, he was one of the youngest, chartered accountants in the country. Way back when, started from nothing, built something, built a few things, and then just was generally a really good businessman. My dad's side were, from Liverpudlian-ish. Dad's dad was a dock worker. Dad also went to a Catholic, convent boys boarding school. It was a pretty rough start. He ended up being a CEO of a very, very large advertising agency, a global ad agency. He retired a couple of years ago. My mother was a hard worker. She had a couple of businesses from interior design, and she's actually now a chef, which is her passion project. So she worked at some cool places and is very happy. So we're all very hard workers, and I knew that I just wanted to prove that I could do something as well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Do you think have you still got that?
Have I still got that drive?
Do you feel like you've not? We can see you've got the drive.
Yeah.
Okay. When do you think that you will sit back and go, I did what I wanted to do. I've completed that mission to prove everybody wrong?
I don't know that will ever really go away.
Yeah.
I think given what we do and the fact that we are always aware of the next opportunity.
Yeah.
Because that can come from anywhere.
Yeah.
Someone you speak to in a coffee shop, to your dentist, to a referral from a friend, from LinkedIn, from Instagram, somebody reached out to me, and as my online presence is a lot smaller than everybody else's. And then having that sort of validation, that just keeps you going.
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see that the fact that I still get excited about every opportunity.
I love that. Which
is great. So I don't think it ever really goes away. I think you shape it differently. I don't have anything to prove other than to myself.
Love that.
Yeah.
So boarding school was military, and then you walk into Foxtons day one, and we know what Foxtons is like the military again.
It was.
You must have fitted like a glove in that first 2 weeks of training.
The founder, he was ex-military.
Ex-military,
which is a widely publicized fact. Yeah. So the fact that you get up early at boarding school to start your day, Foxtons was regimented as, I remember I started out in St. John's Wood, and surprisingly I was late on my first day. And I've never been more terrified in my life. I had a South African sales manager, a chap called Eli Robinson, who I think is still kicking around.
Yeah,
a few bits of property here and there.
Yeah.
And it taught me loads, but it was a military operation. So
how late were you? What happened?
Do you remember? Well, you obviously know the Swiss Cottage roundabout. I took a wrong exit, absolute nightmare. And and bear in mind, I was effectively like fresh off the boat. Right?
Yeah.
I might have grown up there, but I didn't really know St. John's Wood. I didn't even really know where I was going. I probably should have done a bit more research on the Friday of picking up my car, my Foxtons Mini, to where the office was on the first day. So I think I was like 12 minutes late or something, which was late enough. Yeah, late enough.
Slap on the wrist.
Yeah, slap on the wrist. And then I actually think I was made to wait at reception before the Monday morning meeting had finished, before anyone came to get me.
No way. I bet you felt awful sitting in that seat.
Terrible.
The world just wanted to.
I thought, you come out of the Fox's like training academy thinking that you're effectively like Gordon Gekko, right?
Yeah.
And then you go from that to boy in about 5 seconds, because it's real world stuff.
But the beauty of it is you probably learned the biggest lesson in that moment, and you only really learn properly from mistake,
Mhm.
right? And you made a mistake and you were probably never late to a Monday morning meeting
Nope.
ever again.
Absolutely not. So then you then adopt that of being first in, last to leave, all of that stuff, and just doing as much as you possibly can. And this was back when Foxtons had, I don't remember the specific number, maybe like 20 offices, something like that. I want to say somewhere between 17 and 25 offices, because it was before the whole big expansion thing, the sale. So, excuse me, we covered from pretty much the Marylebone Road to Willesden from that St John's Wood Foxtons office, and all the neighbourhoods in between. So there was a lot of people in that office. I think there was about 17, 18 negs in sales alone in that year, which is unfathomable now. You're lucky if corporate agencies have 3 negs in a sales team in any given location. So it was very much, sink or swim.
I was going to say, did you thrive off of that, sink or swim?
Yeah. That kind of environment, and I've referenced it earlier, being sink or swim. I also didn't have anything to lose except, hurt my pride and my way overinflated ego, which I know we've all had, especially Benji.
As in past tense.
Oh, that was wrong. I still have. So, nothing to lose, everything to learn, and nothing else really going on, right? Because all of my mates were at university, except the other friend Henry, who was in the Notting Hill office. Nothing else to do but do it, basically.
Can you tell us about these legendary? I think it normally happened on a Friday.
The Friday
the end
meeting.
of the day, the Friday meetings where basically they gave you. I think it was like a leaderboard.
Yep. Yeah.
And you got ranked. Tell us about those.
Wow, I've not heard this.
Tell us about this.
Have you not?
No.
So they were, I think, and they were legendary meetings. And then it sort of tailed off as, I guess, corporate culture. Maybe I wouldn't, not even like, woke culture, but just corporate culture and people being a lot more aware of sales environments. There was a change, but it would start, you would have regions, right? So you'd have north, west, south, and east, northeast, south, and west. I don't know why I did it that way, but anyway. And then so the north would go to a certain office.
Yeah.
And then so that was the Camden office. Because it was big, it could host everybody. But the crux of it was everyone would sit in the room, all the negs, valuers, managers, and your specific director. There would be a big whiteboard with a projector, and you were supposed to shout out your numbers, right? So your numbers would have been, I think, viewings, offers, and then anything that had exchanged. So you would go, 15, 2, and then no, 4 offers, four numbers: viewings, offers, exchanges, and then the value.
Yeah.
So you would say, 15 viewings, 3 offers, 2 exchanges and £25,000 in fees.
Oh, fine. Yeah.
And then you would have a sort of a 6-month rolling average and a 12-month rolling average of everything you banked, and so what your average would be every month. That's where you would be sat on the leaderboard. And if you had, if you were number 1 neg that week or that month, they would quite literally throw a bottle of champagne. You would stand up.
I've seen these videos.
They would throw them, and it just did really. If you bought into it, you thrived. You loved it. You were desperate to have a great week. So if you knew you weren't going to have an exchange, you would get your viewings numbers up. You would get your offers numbers up, so that you weren't stood there shouting no and no. Because, it was a huge pride, huge ego thing.
So do you not think those meetings are the exact reason why people don't want to use Foxtons? Because they're simply booking in and organising viewings for the Friday at the end of the week, and they're just showing people things that aren't for them, but they want to put it on the board. I've done 50 viewings. Listen,
I think there are a couple of different ways to look at this. And it's interesting that you took it like that. That's just what we wanted to do. I was coming from it in a direction that actually, no, you wanted to do more viewings. So you had more opportunity to get an offer, more opportunity to agree it, have a decent pipeline so that you were aiming at least 1 or 2 exchanges a month.
Yeah.
Which is
competition.
Exactly. So, every agent has booked in a fake viewing here or there. Obviously I haven't, for those that are watching, but, I'm self-employed, so it doesn't matter.
What happened?
For future people, yes.
What happened if you were at the bottom of the leaderboard?
I think
Did they kind of call anybody out? Was there like a relegation zone in the Premier League? Do you know what I mean?
No,
You
listen,
threw in the relegation zone, and
it
by
wasn't-
the end of the month, if not, you get the chop.
it was just a horrible place to be. And if you were down there, or if you shouted out even no, I used to take that quite personally. I didn't want to shout out no.
What is that? Sorry, when you say no, I didn't have any viewings.
No offers, no nothing.
Yeah.
You wanted to at least have something going on.
Yeah.
So if you're at the bottom, you probably didn't believe in it, and you were just a passenger.
And that must have whittled away a lot of people that were just never born for sales.
Yeah.
I think in that environment, and I had it mildly when I was doing membership sales right back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
You thrive from that leaderboard. Okay.
Yeah.
You want to be at the top. Like we did in membership, and it had the whole of the regions, the whole of the UK. And I was like, fuck it, I want to be number one.
Yeah.
And I thrived for that. And I loved those end of month meetings like so much, because I was like, went in like, anyway. But it was quite clear the people that saw themselves at the bottom felt absolutely demoralized, and they just weren't born for sales. They just weren't, not born for that type of sales environment anyway. And you'd quickly see that probably bottom 15, 20% over a 6-month period. Then you wouldn't see them the next month.
I mean, I think that's generous. There was certainly, it's really interesting that the people's perception of Foxtons and what it was and what it wasn't, or what it is to what it is now. And like I said, I joined in 2007 and I was 18, so I was very young, very fresh, knew nothing different. So to me, it was very normal.
Yeah.
The culture before that, as I understand it, was a lot more brutal. But in any sales organization, if you're not really cutting it, then you have to move on. You ran an office. I've run offices before. Yeah. You have a P&L. Like, you have responsibilities to the business, to your other team, because also negativity breeds negativity, right? So if you've got one person that's either negative, not contributing, and not really accepting any help, then what are you supposed to do? You can't carry people forever.
So with that in mind, and we touched on that the world has changed, and obviously from when you were there to where the world is now, and you used a word before, woke.
Mm-hmm.
Would you still have those meetings today?
I think, would I or do they?
Would you?
Yeah, I would. If I had a sales organization, absolutely. Because it's salespeople, and I'm not saying you need to treat them, badly or like animals or, degenerates, because they're not. But you have to create a sales environment in order to cultivate that competition. That competition between negs.
Yeah, 100%.
The incentives, the bonuses, the cars, the trips, the cash.
Is there a balance though?
I think you can be, but also, the older certain people get, they become very stuck in their ways, right? You can't really change people. So, the young, that's why, lots of sales organizations have young people fresh out of school or fresh out of university, because they can be molded. And in a good way, because I think it does teach a lot of good habits. There are some bad habits that come from it as well. But I think there can be a balance with the right people. For I love working with you guys, or being close to you in the office and stuff, because I feed off your energy.
Yeah.
But if we were in an office competing in eggs, I think that would be fantastic.
Well, I really would. I think your view and opinion is really interesting, and for the people that are watching, because you've had quite a colourful journey in terms of agency where you've worked. You've worked with some of the best, Foxtons, Knight Frank, Druce's, you were at BHB Private, and now obviously here at DDRE. So that's quite a wide range of different agencies. So I don't know what the question was. Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Okay, my question.
Benj, this is your podcast. As we established earlier, this is not your first time doing this.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I've got a question. Yeah. I've got a question.
You looked me in the eye.
And look, we obviously have a lot of younger generation who watches and want to get into the industry and want to build themselves up. And one of the overriding question, which we get every single week, is, what would you tell your younger self? Apart from don't be 12 minutes late. What is the couple of nuggets or one top tip that you would give that first young Ollie at 18 years old going into that the night before?
You don't know everything. Listen, take it all in.
Yeah.
Because you have time on your side. if you don't listen, if you think you know everything, again, I've certainly been guilty of that, and it's cost me. I would assume that you guys have had those kind of moments in your careers as well.
Yeah.
Just listen, take it in, find somebody that can mentor you and to take you under their wing, and everything will work out.
And I think that's even true to now, isn't it? Like,
Still,
you know,
yeah.
we learn from each other. We learn from Daniel. We learn from everyone around us. And I think if you ever close that mindset off to, oh, I know it now. I've done it 12 years, 10 years, whatever. I know it now. And that will easily stunt your growth, I think. I think it's one of the best top tips to learn and listen to. As you said, you are never the best. You always have someone to aspire to and to get better than. And you have to listen to everyone around you, don't you?
Yeah.
It's absolutely vital, you know?
Yeah.
So how long were you in employed agency for?
Employed agency, Foxtons, I think was 14 years. Knight Frank.
Was it 14 years in Foxtons?
Yeah, 14 years,
Wow.
which was...
that must be one of the longest standing, no?
I think there are very few people that lasted sort of between 14 to the lifers. So between 14 and 20 plus years, there's not that many of them. But if it's the only thing you know, then actually that becomes your environment, as we've talked about, and it's normal. It's very hard to get out of, and then a brief stint at Knight Frank, and that didn't work out the way that I wanted it to work out for a variety of reasons. I'm very grateful for my time there because I got to learn a part of the business that I hadn't really operated in the prime and super prime, well, the super prime end of things. I got a great friendship with Benji from it now, which was actually one of the most valuable things. And he was a big reason why I came to DDRE to go fully self-employed.
Nice.
The headspace wasn't quite right. I think I was very bored. I was frustrated that as an operations director at a company that I'd given most of my life to, professional life to, I wasn't given options or shares. Like that was the year that a few of us were promoted to that level. Yeah. We weren't given those things, and we were becoming more, glorified HR and, dealing with people and training rather than doing deals and all of that stuff. And then, so I wasn't really kind of growing, and I was a bit frustrated. I then, I sadly was getting divorced at that period of time as well. So there was a lot of things going in the background, and I kind of regret not being in the right headspace to go into Knight Frank. Truthfully. So after Knight Frank, which again, I'm very thankful for, it was quite a humbling experience at the same time. I never sort of experienced anything like it, but it was good.
And
even at the time,
Benji obviously knows, what was your role then at Knight Frank?
So I went from being an operations director, being, quite somewhat senior at Foxtons, to then being an associate, which is basically an egg. Right. Yeah. Because what does it go? Sort of associate partner, equity partner, and equity partner, right? So it was a very small team. There was only 2 other people in that team. So it didn't really feel like a huge, it was more of a diagonal move than a down step. I didn't see it like that. I wanted to grow. I wanted to go into a different market. And so, got to be careful what you wish for sometimes.
But do you know what I hate, right, is that, and we've all got to that level, I was managing a couple of offices, 5, 6 negs and whatnot. The only way to grow kind of financially and also in those businesses is you have to become managers, or you have to become regional operators, and you have to run 4 or 5 offices. But you lose the game, don't you? You lose what you love doing originally. Isn't that the fact that you love going doing deals and viewings and being out there? You're out of touch.
How many
you're not income producing?
How many times have we complained about our former bosses because they've told us to do something, but that that's not how it's done. You can't run a business like that anymore. And how frustrating it is because you're so far out of touch.
100%
from reality. It's
and
insane.
Some people just aren't. I'm not going to slag him off. I will slightly. Wayne Rooney. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Like,
you know him?
I don't know him.
Okay. I think you're fine then.
I'm going to just see from this is from my perception. Okay. One of the top footballers over the last couple of decades. In his game, amazing. Has gone into management, has had 2 or 3 jobs, unfortunately, where he hasn't lasted too long. I don't know if I just watched the Tom Brady thing last night, didn't get inspired by Wayne Rooney whatsoever in any of those clips. Might have been portrayed that way. You only see a certain 1-minute snippet out of a fucking season, whatever it is. But he's obviously not a manager, okay? And I've seen it in agency where the best negotiators and the best people, etc., are then forced up the ranks because ultimately they want to progress. That's normal. But then you take your star striker and you put him into a manager's role and he can't perform.
Mm-hmm.
And it's awful that that's the way that these agencies are worked. That's why, again, I think with our models or broker models, you get that feeling back whilst being able to progress in your career, not just from a statutory point of view and a business point of view, a monetary point of view. You get to be the striker again.
Yeah,
like that's epic.
Well, you're everything.
You're everything.
Striker, you're the coach, you're the position.
Yeah,
it's wild.
So, when did you decide to go self-employed? Because you were self-employed before DDRE as well.
Yeah, so I was at a company called BHB Private, and where we tried to incorporate hospitality and real estate services together, and then doing that with you by yourself or maybe with 1 or 2 other people in the background is exceptionally difficult, right? It's hard enough being self-employed at DDRE just because of what we do naturally, than to worry about the other side of the business, being like proper hospitality and travel and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
and it's also a difficult sell, right? Because you can't say you do everything to the best of your ability, because you can't.
Yeah.
If you're trying to do 6 different things, it's a real challenge. I'm glad I did it. I saw,
and you didn't have experience as well in like travel and hotelier or whatever it may be. You don't have experience in that, so you can't be a next. What's the saying? You're a master.
Jack of all
trades,
master
of none.
I think there is a second part of that.
Yeah, sorry,
there is. Maybe we'll put that in the bio of this episode. Or we can say
Oliver Venn, Jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah. Please don't.
I'm joking.
But again, I learned a lot. So there was 2 sides of it. There was my real estate side, and then there was the concierge and hospitality side, where there was a bigger team. So they did facilitate kind of everything that these high net worths wanted, which was a really interesting experience, from private members clubs to tickets to jets to boats to parties, whatever it is, horses. I was exposed to a world that was vastly different to what I know.
Yeah.
Again, good experience, wasn't right, and now here we are. So you're going self-employed again. This time with my money. This was the obvious choice.
So just backtracking, so you were at BHB, and we obviously did a couple of viewings together.
Yeah.
And I know every time we were together, we'd speak about it. And I know you left a really good impression on Daniel. How did you perceive as an outsider DDRE Global before you joined? So
like I said, I didn't really know Daniel all that well. We had crossed paths on a few viewings, and him and Leah, when she was his PA, was always very kind and took very good care of me. As did Jess with anything new that came to the market for any of my searches. We did 1 or 2 viewings, I think.
Yeah.
But again, not to inflate you any more than you already are. You were a big part of that, because I saw you did it for a long time, and you've made it work. You left a really, really good seat at Knight Frank to do so. Very similar frustrations to what you had at Berkshire's. And I thought, well, it's been a weird few years, right? I lost a job. I left a great job. I lost a job. I then went to Druce. We didn't talk about Druce. Druce was an interesting experience because of the merger between them and Bective. And there was lots of people trying to take it in one direction with a foreign family office owning a UK business. Was really difficult to get right. Good experience, but a bit of a stepping stone. And my perception of DDRE was that, well, if I was going to do it, I like everybody that works there. They gave me the time of day when I was trying to do something for myself. And when you're really on your own, it's very lonely. It's really lonely. So I wanted to be around high performing people. I needed that conversation. We're probably the most active people in the office in terms of being in the office and contributing to conversations, hearing, deals, viewings, whatever. That was really important to me. I had no one to bounce anything off the last place.
Do you think you're home now?
That's really interesting that you say. My former business partner, Harry, he sent me a message, I think, just as I started releasing some content on Instagram. And he sent me a really lovely message saying, "Hi, O, saw your LinkedIn stuff. It looks like you're home. You found home."
Love.
So I took that. I thought that was really nice of him to say.
Nice.
And I do feel like it is home. I really
love
do. Not without its challenges, but it feels very, very good to be here.
Well, yeah, now it's time to give you a compliment back. I'm inspired by you. Seeing you juggle family life, coming into second time self-employed, and I learned so much from you. And it's an inspiration seeing, people like yourself come into DDRE, go down the self-employed route, and you strike me as someone who's now happy, which is why I ask, are you home? So I'm honored to be around great people like you.
That's really kind.
And I'm truly inspired. Someone who's never really done socials before. You're throwing yourself in at the deep end, which I know a lot of people speak to Ollie and I about. How do I do socials? Do I, it's really scary. You're just kind of getting on with it, on camera. I know you went to theatre school, or you studied theatre, but you're throwing yourself in at the deep end, and it's I'm inspired by that.
Thank
you.
And
I'm sure other people watching will also be as well.
I really hope so, because that has taken me out of my comfort zone. Anybody that knows me, I'm a bit of an extrovert. Like I'll talk to anybody. I don't really care who you are, what you do. I don't really get starstruck. I will talk to everybody, because we're all human, right? We all do the same stuff. It doesn't really matter. But getting myself out on camera, but like the vlogging, not so much the tours or the agent intros. Vlogging is just the most alien thing and the most uncomfortable thing. But again, it goes back to you guys. And Benji, you try a lot of stuff, and it some sticks, some doesn't, and no one cares at the end of the day. No one cares at all. And if you can get over that hurdle, and if you can produce the stuff that you produce, that's a backhanded compliment, by the way, then everybody else should take note from what you guys do. And I see what you do, with all of your car videos. You've got Alfie, you've got your newsletter, and then you've got your series about that you follow on, because you're very consistent about what you follow on with, which is great. I don't know how you do it, because I can barely remember what I posted yesterday, what I should follow on with. If I put posts on my day, I will then forget to post how my day was yesterday. But then does anybody care?
No.
Probably not. And
do you know what I love? And it was the backhanded compliment that you said to Benji, but also from your career and a lot of our careers, is that we failed at stuff. We've done businesses, we've done job roles, we've tried stuff, it hasn't stuck. But you learn from your failures. And that's what I think so many people out there are afraid of. They're afraid of doing something and it failing. And the problem is that's then stunted their growth, because they're then just sat in that lane the whole time, or they're sat in that seat the whole time, and they'll never go out and try something different. And it's so vital that we do stuff every single day, and there'll be something which we go, okay, that didn't work. Or, I've spent all that effort on that, and it's just not landing. And then you do something else and you go, fuck, that's landed. That's brilliant.
It was spot on. And if you were to look at your career in a graph, right, you'd probably say, right, here's Foxton's, and then maybe sideways or a bit down for Knight Frank. Then Druce's maybe sideways because they were foreign entity. It didn't happen. Then BHB maybe up slightly because you're going into a different space that you've never worked in before, and then you're now at DDRE, and then you're going skyrocketing.
It's been very much up, down, sideways, down.
Correct. But if you would have stayed at Foxton's, you perhaps would have been in the same seat.
Yeah,
or just plateauing.
And some of my, very good friends are. And, I spoke with one last week or not last week, a couple of weeks ago, and he's very happy with that. Very happy with that. And and that's fine. And I don't think that there should be this societal pressure of, and this is, one of the downfalls of social media is that, we are all made to feel like we are less than we are, and we have to do more. We have to be fitter, dress better, have more money, have a nicer looking partner, have a nicer looking life where we live, all of that stuff. And I think ambition is good and you should want things. But I think, it's also can be very detrimental. So finding that balance is really, really tough.
And look, we spoke about Casper obviously earlier. We had Sean Louise on the podcast a couple of months or so ago. Being a single parent, running your own business, which I always say is like having another kid, how do you juggle it? I'm super lucky, that I've got Alex and, she does a lot with Alf and gives me the opportunity to have more time or, to be able to don't take that phone call or do that one at 9 o'clock, etc., because I need to do it, or jump into a thing on a Saturday morning. How do you do it when you haven't got that reliable person next to you that you can just, could you just look after Casper for 20 minutes?
I'm very lucky in the sense that, myself and my ex-wife have got a fantastic relationship and she is legitimately a fantastic mother. We do have 50-50 custody, but he lives with her most of the time. And then I think I have him 5 out of 15 days, something like that. When it comes to the holidays, as you've seen, or like he comes with me. I know Sean's the same, you're the same. And I posted something quite early on. It's very nice. It's a privilege that your son or your daughter gets to see what mummy or daddy does for a living.
I love that.
It's so humbling as well. At the same time, they'll come out with the weirdest things, and it's just
there's no filter.
Please don't say that. Please don't say that. Or you said I could have a sweetie, and then you don't want to get judged because you don't want your clients think that you just feed your kids like nonsense or something, and you're just like, shut up.
They're probably doing the same, right? They're a human,
but
our clients.
But this is the other thing. If your clients then can see you are human and you're not performing for them, like we touched on earlier, I think that's wonderful.
It brings you closer to them as well. I really think it builds deep, meaningful relationships.
A lot of our clients will be a bit older, have kids that have grown up, and if anything, they love it.
Yeah, it's quite endearing, probably.
It's really
it builds
endearing.
a closer bond. You're, in the theory, putting yourself in a vulnerable position, and then you're building rapport with them for life.
Yeah, no, you really are, and it's also good to see that you have other things going on in your life, because we have been bred to know our clients inside and out, stay close to them like glue, know everything about them. But what do they know about you? Okay, they'll know lots about you guys because you have an Instagram, assuming that they follow it religiously. But do they know about Talia's business, for example? Do they know what Alex does now? Like, do they know what Alfie's into? Do they know that you get your hair cut twice a week? That's why it was so fresh. How much they really know about us. And I think if we can let them in, they will then appreciate how hard we work for the fees that we are fortunate enough to be able to charge. And I think it works both ways. Knowing that we're self-employed, knowing that we've got families, we've got mortgages, we've got things that we want to do, we want to grow our businesses. We operate in a very rarefied atmosphere. In the upper end of the prime and the super prime markets. Most of them have made their money themselves, so that it's not all handouts. So we have to build something. Why not take them with us, tell them our journey, tell them what we want to do, and they're more likely to think that they're getting some value from that.
Correct. And
I love that.
And we'll all grow together.
Exactly. We'll all grow together. So,
mate, I love that. That was I love that answer. Okay. Quick fire questions. We've got a couple of quick fire questions from you.
Okay, let's have it.
That the people have asked, and they are always sometimes very random. Shall I go first?
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing here is, what is one thing during your career you would have changed?
I wouldn't have stayed at Foxtons for as long as I did.
Yeah, that's a good answer.
What is the most expensive property you've ever sold?
Carlton Hill, a shade under £10 million.
Love that. Will your son be in the business in the future?
I would love him to do anything that makes him happy, and I will support whatever he wants to do.
Love that. Yeah, that's a nice one.
London has had its issues. How do you see it playing out over the next 6 months?
Over the next 6 months, well, we have a budget coming up, quite an important one. I'm a bit concerned because no one's seen Rachel Reeves for a while. So hope she's all right. Rachel, if you're watching. A couple of different... the way that I think that it's going to go is that people are really going to see the value in London. We've seen it in 2008, 2009, post-Brexit, a year after post-Brexit, and then again on the back end of COVID. Lots of different plays. You know, it's largely very safe. We like to joke about it. You might get your phone nicked. Fine. It's very safe. We have great infrastructure. The education, the financial district, you know, are all still world-class. People are going to start seeing the value again. I think people are going to start hedging based on what they can get properties for. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of repossessions at the higher end of things and some pretty wild discounts, even from the previous peak of 14, 15.
Yep.
The smart money will start buying. And I think we're already seeing it just with the offers that are flying around in the office and some of the ridiculous searches that we've got on the buy side happening at the moment. The pied-à-terre market's coming back. That's how I see it playing out. Labour has smashed the market. The Conservatives did a really good job of that as well in the run-up to Labour's inheritance. And got a few more years till the next election. If people are really smart, they'll buy, and then the cycle will repeat itself.
I love that.
Yeah.
Last one for me. How do you remain resilient during tough times?
Not to sound like that meme, but you know, tough times never last, but tough people do. And I'm knocking on the door of 20 years doing this. We're going to have good markets, bad markets. We're going to have wars. We're going to have bad leaders. We're going to have bad inflation. Again, it's a cycle. Up, down, and then everything in between. Better days are always coming.
Love that.
Love that.
Oh, it's been epic having you on. I've loved your story. It's been brilliant. And again, there's been so many great tips and hints. And I think a lot of people will resonate with your story, which is great. So for the people watching, where do they find you?
So socials. LinkedIn, Oliver Venn, Instagram, owv.property, and
Home
the
address.
DDRE website.
Home address.
Well, I'm living out of my car because I am self-employed. Smart car is surprisingly roomy, but it's been a pleasure. It's been a lot of fun. You guys are great hosts, and there's a reason why people watch you.
Love that.
And it's not just for the caricatures.
Yeah, well, they're great. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on.
My pleasure.
It's been great.
Thank you, guys.
You're a legend.
Thanks.
See you on the next one.